Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Corrupt Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2018 satirical dark comedy thriller titled Assassination Nation. Now, Assassination Nation runs for 1 hour and 48 minutes long. It is directed by Sam Levinson. The script was written by Sam Levinson. It is produced by Manu Gargi, Aaron L. Gilbert, Anita Gao, David S. Goyer, Matthew Malik, and Kevin Turin. It is composed by Ian Hultquist, the cinematography by Marcel Rev, and it was edited by Ron Patan. And the stars of the movie are Odessa Young, Harry Neff, Suki, Waterhouse, Abra, Bella Thorne, It himself, Bill Skarsgård, Joel McHale, Judd Apatow's daughter, Maude Apatow, Colman Domingo, Anika Noni Jones, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Lukas Gage, Cody Christian, Danny Ramirez, Noah Galvin, Jennifer Morrison, J.D. Evermore, Cullen Moss, Susan Misner, Joe Charest, Kathryn Erbe, Jeff Pope, Andrene Ward-Hammond, and Caden Swain. When it comes to being accepted in modern society, millennials and Gen Zers, or the Gen Z nation, feel the need that being noticed means more to them than fame or wealth. Social media is the new norm. Whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, TikTok, Zoom, whatever. The quest to being noticed is all that really matters. Be it good, whether you're doing good or bad or indifferent, it's all around us. It's omnipresent. Unfortunately, it might even come at a bit of a cost. Your social media platforms represent who you are and are determined by how many friends you have on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Does anybody still go on MySpace? Because that's how all the craze started. And of course, people's reaction to the selfies you take on Instagram or your videos you produce on TikTok. You all want to have a positive image. You all want your voice heard. You all want your faces or your bodies exposed. And the more number of likes you receive on these platforms might mean a lot to you more than anything else. But when your reputation gets exploited or tampered with, putting a dent to you or on anyone's reputation, it could come to the end to some, whether it tears them apart or worse. This movie is not for the faint of heart. And while it does have a social commentary on a lot of issues, not just social media, but also issues involving things like toxic masculinity. It deals with the subjects of misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, things like that. There's a lot of social commentary on this movie. And it's set around a town where once everybody's private lives have been exposed, it could lead to utter chaos, destruction, and other relatable malices. In his second feature film, director Sam Levinson, who of course is the son of Oscar-winning director Barry Levinson, Assassination Nation explores a myriad of subjects that concerns modern-day society, with the emphasis on internet safety issues and the dangers that may come when you overexpose yourself and how damaging it could cause if it falls into the hands of the wrong person. So, in this movie, we have a mysterious hacker who's been invading other people's private lives and not aware of the repercussions that will soon follow. And it could lead, of course, to suicide, murder, resignation, and even utter chaos. I mean, it's practically a town, or even just having the whole entire town at war with one another. I mean, just from the opening scene seemed kind of distracting, as people who come out of their houses are all seen wearing purge masks. And, it's kind of creepy. Yes, and I don't mean like COVID-19 masks, I mean purge masks. I mean, bad enough that the COVID-19 masks were creepy enough as it is. Even though I know it was for our own protection. But these people are wearing the masks not only just to protect themselves, but to stay in privacy so that nobody can see or know who you are. And even just taking out the garbage, people are sort of looking around in suspension or suspiciously. Because you never know who's going to film you, who's going to expose you. I mean, the whole town of where this movie is set has been completely fucked up. And as the narrator in the story goes, this is not for the weak at heart. It's going to get very rough. So like I said before, there is a hacker out there who's invading on people's privacy, which of course will eventually tarnish and destroy one's reputation, sometimes to the point of going off the edge. So the story centers around 4 teenagers. We have Lily Coulson, played by Odessa Young. She's joined by her friend Bex, played by Harry Neff, Sarah Suki Waterhouse, and M, played by Abra, who at first lived the lives of normal teenagers in suburban Salem, Massachusetts. And I mean modern day Salem, Massachusetts, not period piece Salem, Massachusetts. But if you compare the two, it's like comparing oranges to tangerines. You thought I was going to say apples to oranges, right? Well, you're wrong. I'm saying oranges to tangerines. And you know where this is coming from, right? Anybody who doesn't know about Salem, Massachusetts, it was, of course, the famous place where the Salem witch trials were. Although this movie isn't about witches, there is still going to be a witch trial anyhow. I mean, at the beginning of the movies, you take these 4 teens and they go through the stages many teenagers experience in their lives, like schoolwork, dating, and facing many issues that very few people understand, and of course, spending quality time on their social media platforms. Of course, there's actually, believe it or not, quite a lot of promiscuity in this movie. And it's not just coming from the guys. Actually, believe it or not, more of the girls seem to have a much more promiscuous take on life. And yes, of course, you all know that synonymous with teenage life comes, of course, um, the occasional horniness. Yes, apparently all teenagers are technically horny people. Whether it be just, curiosity or just seductive hunger, so to speak. But yes, it does come with the course. And of course, you have, of course, a lot of the typical teenagers, over testosterone guys, and the somewhat seductive girls. So, the early scenes of the early moments of the movie are just, living the moments of being a teenager in modern day society. But things take an extremely dark turn in their lives as a mysterious hacker has been toiling into other people's social media accounts and exploited their deep dark secrets they thought were safe. But hey, did you know that sometimes sitting behind your computer or sitting behind your desk, you never know if you're going to be exploited or exposed? I could be sitting down right here on my desk right now and I'm being exposed. Although, I mean, let's face it, privacy is obsolete. Everywhere you go, Big Brother's watching you. You could be taking a bath or having a shit and somebody will be watching you. This would eventually lead towards some very dark and daring turns of events as the residents eventually start violently taking it out on each other, which also leads to many unfortunate deaths. And there's quite a whole abundance of killings in this movie because practically the whole town of Salem is pretty much at war with each other. I mean, it truly gets fucking dark near the end. In an homage to the Purge, these masked individuals eventually form a mob to take out anyone who's behind these hacks or anyone who thinks that they're suspicious. Apparently, the main people who they go after are the Fab Four ladies, and they become the primary target as the whole town decides to try to hunt them down and go as so far as to attempt to kill them. But Lily and her friends eventually stand up for each other and take them down. Apparently, they start using missiles, machetes, and swords. I mean, all of a sudden, they just seem to. I mean, at first, when you think of them, they were just pretty much just, average teenage girls. So then all of a sudden, once they start donning weapons and ammunition, they start to become badass. Like, how did they even learn how to use these things? And I'm not putting them down as being sexist. All I'm saying is they just kind of like started using these weapons like from out of nowhere. Like, how did they start to learn all these stuff? Oh, maybe they just learned it from television. Or maybe they don't know how to use it, they're just taking it by force. Where did they get it from, anyhow? Did they have it like secretly stashed in their secret hideouts? There's some kind of secret door where they eventually ended up getting them. I don't know. Bought them off of Amazon? Possibly. I think this movie should have been like what The Purge should have been. I mean, this movie does take a lot of liberties from The Purge. But like I said, in this movie, it doesn't just deal with the social media stuff, but also stuff that teenagers go through. You know, like not just toxic masculinity, but also fragile masculinity. You know, are guys who feel like they're losing their status as men, and if you don't comply to their definitive meaning of what a man is, well, congratulations, you have just entered the phagometer. That's right. If you don't comply to a certain level that 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 labels you as a masculine guy, no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts, you're an automatic faggot. I know I hate to use that word, but that's how they see the world through their mindset. Also, also, you know, like one of the four girls was not actually born a girl. I believe her name was Bex, the character Bex. Um, she's in a relationship with a guy, and apparently she has kept this a secret, but she wasn't born a guy. She wasn't born a girl. She was born a guy. In other words, she's transgender. And you know what? That's actually the amazing thing was is that the actress who plays Bex is an open transgender. They didn't just take some cisgendered female and made her out as transgender. They took an actual transgender actress to be cast as Bex, which actually adds a lot more authenticity and a lot more accurate social commentary about how members of the transgender community react in a society where they don't feel either male or female. And, I think that's actually a worthy cause, as she's actually one of the more important characters in this movie to speak out on these kind of issues. So, I gotta say, good for director Sam Levinson and the casting choices. Yeah, you want to keep your films authentic? Hire the right people. That's what I say. I mean, it deals with a lot of other stuff too. But of course, the main emphasis is on social media and the dangers of being overly exploited. I mean, hell, Lily also goes through some certain stuff too, especially when she's texting somebody who only refers to himself as daddy. But the question is who is this daddy? Well, as it turns out, Lily uh, does another teenage thing. No, it's not a bad thing, or at least we think it's not a bad thing. She babysits. Hey, a lot of teenagers babysit. This is a good way to make a little bit of restitution, a little bit of money. You got to start somewhere. Anyhow, she babysits for a family named, their last names are Mathers, and Joel McHale plays a character named Nick Mathers. And let's face it, Lily is a favorite among them. Almost close to like second family, they treat her like. Only to realize there's a lot more dark undercurrents behind her second family. You see, and I'm giving away spoilers here, folks. Nick Mathers is Daddy. Little does she know that she doesn't know who this daddy is, but we all know that it is Nick Mathers, Joel McHale's character. And she's been posting some rather suggestive photographs of her to him, to his phone. And of course the town, once they get exploited for her, they, go around uh, touching her in weird ways, acting all totally fucked up, referring to her as names like a slut, a whore, or a harlot, or a skank. And they start chasing her around, chasing her and her friends around. And people are even, like stalking into her houses, looking for them and killing people in their paths. I mean, it goes really, really fucking bizarre and insane in this movie. Almost to a point where the whole town was at war with each and every one of you. And even from some of the more earlier scenes before the real gritty and diabolical climax, there is a lot of deep-rooted, heavy-handed stuff too during some of the early scenes, including, which I will hopefully try and get to. If not, I will do my best. The movie tends to play off as a satirical comedy of how obsessed we are when it comes to current events happening in the now. Even though it does tend to get a bit muddled as it crams too much of everything, if not that not all the issues we face in the modern world are fully fleshed. There's a lot to be liked about this movie, but only when it doesn't depend on MTV like edits and somewhat god awful dialogue. But then again, the movie is not really specifically intended for dialogue or even really strong in terms of acting. It's more about the unpredictability of what could happen and what kind of reproductions that are taking place is quite overwhelmingly staggering. In the opening scenes, all the trigger labels show up on the screen, which becomes the catalyst of issues to come as the film progresses. The 14s were definitely perfectly cast, especially Harry Neff as Bex, which I had mentioned before. And they kind of match the personalities of their respective characters. They all capture a tone of appeal, and they are very unique in their own different way. And like I said, the most provocative cast choice is Harry Neff, playing the role of Bex Warren, who is perfect in her role, playing a transgender teenager, which is a good thing, because Hollywood doesn't have to cast non-transgender performers for this particular character, being that she's one herself. I don't know if she uses they or them pronouns. I don't know. That's her decision. Like the others in this quartet, she's also not a cookie cutter vigilante. I mean, she's just as armed and dangerous as the people in this town are. And sometimes I have to wonder if at the end of the movie if they even survive the whole mob war that was exploding in the city. Not just, I mean, it just exploded. The whole town was at war with each other. The four girls definitely spent a lot of their days posting selfies in the right angles, showing off their trendy clothes, and also playing seductive mind games with teenage boys from their school. Some of them could be easily um, vulnerably lured into their seductive traps, while others not so much. If we can illuminate the teenage drama featured here and concentrate on the violent mob fights, this is some of the most heavy handed stuff as the intensity level really starts to come off at a fever pitch. I'm sure there are some provocative things during the whole teenage high school years of the four girls, including one where we see a picture where Lily in art class was drawing a picture of a naked person, and the principal asks her into the office saying that he doesn't really approve of nudity in the classroom. But then she states a point that it's only in your head that you see nudity. What I see is artistic genius. In your fragile mind, only you are the one who's seeing nudity. What I'm seeing is called artistic freedom. I mean, I'm gonna probably get more into Principal Terrell, as even he was also met with mob-like backlash as well because of being exposed. It's actually his story is a little more tragic than a lot of the others. You know, there's all kinds of like these kind of stuff too, or even the way how guys would do cat calls to them and they would diss them back. Hell, even a compliment, they tend to make that into some kind of problematic thing. Like some guys say, "Wow, you look really good," and their answer would, instead of being flattered, they would be like, "You think I didn't know that?" I mean, the idea of these kind of stuff is something, for something to ponder about. It's the execution that makes it seem very muddled in detail because I think Levinson was trying to exploit too much but didn't have much time. Remember, we can only cram as much as we can for a 2 hour movie. We could probably go into more deeper details if it was made into like a mini series or a sitcom or something like that. At first glance, we feel that the movie is setting the tone to bring down the men in the town that have high ranking jobs in their professions. But it's not just the guys itself, it's also, they also bring up these kind of stuff, there is a lot of, heavy hitting feminism in this movie, involving, like how women are treated by these men. Look this way. Don't look that way. Shave your legs. Don't shave your legs. Put a smile on your face. But don't show too much teeth. Look this way. Act this way. Don't look this way. Don't act this way. You know? And there is some commentary based off of those things too as well. And some of the main principal men in this movie that are getting, condemned included, in the early scenes we have a guy named Mayor Bartlett, who's the mayor of Salem, Massachusetts. Well, he put a bill and some kind of stoppage towards anybody who's in the LGBT community. He's putting some kind of a bill or some kind of an amend towards them, some kind of a bill against them, and that he's a right-wing conservative homophobe. But then we realize that not only is he homophobic, he is also a big time fucking hypocrite. You see, he is preaching out against homosexuals or anything that's LGBT. And yet, he gets exposed for dressing in women's lingerie. So underneath all that suit and tie, he's practically fucking wearing bra and panties. And once he gets exposed, people start, telling him to resign. And he can't even get a word across. So then eventually, instead of just resigning, he decides, oh, fuck it. And he blasts his head off. I mean, he tries to explain the situation to the masses. They boo him so loudly to the point where he takes out a gun and blasts his fucking head off. And let's go back to Principal Terrell, played by Colman Domingo. Yeah. A guy who doesn't condone nudity in the classrooms, even though Lily thinks it's art, he thinks it's nudity. But he seemed like a pretty decent individual. Why would he be taken down? Well, apparently, this mysterious hacker who I think goes by the name of Esoturus. Anyhow, Principal Terrell has taken pictures of himself washing a young girl taking a bath, even though it happens to be his daughter. And even though what he's doing seems to be somewhat innocent, I mean, hey, she's only 3 years old, right? And he's giving her a bath. What the fuck is wrong with that? I mean, she's a toddler. She's a baby. What if she drowns? What are you gonna do then? You don't walk out of the room with when you're washing your young daughter. But now everybody thinks he's a child molester. But yeah, he's just washing his child. And then when he tries to confess that there's been a misunderstanding, they all beg for him to resign his position. I mean, he tries to get a word out saying that I would never stoop to a low. And that I was just washing my daughter. But they still think he's a child molester. Kill the patriarchy! Right? Huh. Well, apparently, I guess eventually Principal Terrell gets pegged down too. Even though I don't think he takes his life away, he practically would just either resign his job, move to another town, in hopes that his reputation is still saved. I mean, it just goes to show you how much media mobs can sometimes take a small little misunderstanding and turn it into something retroactive. But then it shifts into another direction as it concentrates on teens taking nude pictures of themselves, like what I mentioned about Lily taking pictures to this mysterious daddy who turns out to be her babysitter's father, Nick Mathers. I mean, it's just uh, overwhelming. I mean, the switch is odd, but the chain of events just keep getting weirder and weirder at every second. And pretty soon the whole town is at war with the girls. Because they all suspect that it's Lily and her other three friends that are the hackers. So they're all going around blasting each other, taking down one person after another. Anybody who is either the hacker or somebody who knows something about the hacker. I mean, you could probably just know maybe some little tidbits and they'll be like, oh, thank you. Oh, and by the way, you're dead. Just bite the bullet, motherfucker. Bang. So pretty much the whole town turns against them as they organically end up having to become fighters without training, and yet they struggle at first to defend themselves during a home invasion. Well, it can't get more surreal than that now, can it? So pretty much the whole town is at war with each other just to find the four girls. And they eventually do something like a witch hunt, almost to the point where they almost look like they're going to hang Bex. And then all of a sudden, Lily comes up with some kind of. And eventually, she speaks out on all the girls in the town. And then eventually, they start to take down the mob. And it's a question of whether or not they survived in the end. Because in the end, all of a sudden, a marching band comes out and starts going past the town to a Miley Cyrus concert. And I think they were playing the instruments to the song We Can't Stop by Miley Cyrus. It's just a weird ending there, too. Like, where were they the whole time? And it seems like the whole marching band are all like African Americans. Could this be that this movie also like is exemplifying or encouraging, I don't know, white genocide? Since I hate to bring up ethnicity and skin color into the fold, but with the exception of a few characters in this movie, most of the characters are pretty much of the Caucasian persuasion. It's even kind of strange that Suki, Waterhouse, and Abra play sisters, I don't know if they're biological sisters or half sisters or stepsisters, because it's just strange that one of them is Caucasian and the other one is African American. Like, how did that happen? Are they, like I said, is one of them adopted or semi-adopted, half siblings? I don't know. Or maybe they're biological siblings, and one of them just happened to have been born blonde-haired and blue-eyed. I suppose it could happen. I mean, I suppose that two white cats can have a black cat as an offspring. It's happened. So Assassination Nation might find a fan base towards the teenage-based groups, being that the main heroes are high school teens, as they might find something relatable to the girls and their adolescent dramas they face in their lives. And sure, these teens don't have a clean reputation by any means of the imagination. They are also not asking for your opinions. We still feel bad about them going through these chain of events they never fully deserved. But then again, that could be relatable to the Salem witch trials. A lot of innocent lives were taken. And maybe they didn't have a sparkling clean reputation. Even their injustices was pretty obvious. One of the better quotes was when she was sent to Tyrell's office and he was upset that she drew nude pictures in art class, and she educated him that the pictures were not meant to be perverted but represented. So I would recommend this movie for all to see. Just don't come in watching with high expectations. But there is a lot of social commentary delivered in this movie, and I think it excels quite well in that way. But I wouldn't like. I mean, I don't expect anything like this to happen in our lifetimes, because I know there are sites around that would keep your privacy in check. But I think the main lesson here is to watch what you say, watch what you do, and most importantly, watch what you post. So with all that said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Assassination Nation from 2018 a 7 out of 10. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules: be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.